My first whiteboard presentation, it is a comedy. Good Wednesday morning to you all, YouTube. It is 9:12 now in the morning. Here with you at the whiteboard. Yeah, that's where we're at. What we got on tap today is, I've been watching a lot of videos. I'm not going to mention any specific names, but a lot of people that I generally watch have been doing a lot of talking about what goes on inside your radio, your AM radio receiver, how it processes the signals, things like that, and it's all well and good. It's all been good. But, it begs the question, or at least to me, where does that signal come from? I know everybody says, well, it takes this, it takes the AM signal and it gets this, but where does the AM signal come from? There's been quite a few of arguments as far as who invented AM radio, or radio in general, as a matter of fact. So I'm not going to go into that, but it's if we think about it, it's amplitude. I always say that wrong. Amplitude, not amplitude, but amplitude modulation, and that's how it is working. I mean, it's basically the opposite of, or the reverse of what the receiver does, and it's what's done at the transmitting site to make that signal to appear on your radio, magically appear, I should say. Let's see. Basically, it was one of the first methods for broadcasting used, and of course it's still used today. It's not as widely, I won't say accepted, but it's not as widely used. It's mostly talk radio in this country, and I imagine pretty much all over the world it's talk radio, news radio, things like that. But the music, it began, in the golden age, I guess, of radio is when the music part, we used AM radio, transmit music, and programming and things like that. As far as there were a lot of serials, things like that, the Shadow Knows, storylines like that got their start on radios, and of course when television came out, they all went to television. Some of them more successful than others. But anyway, like I say, during this golden age, things really began to pop for, that's kind of a funny thing, pop for AM radio, and it was really a popular medium. And like I said, after the all the serials type programming moved to television, that left pretty much AM radio with music. And of course that spawned the top 40, the DJs, the disc jockeys, and things like that. And that's pretty much a look at that. As far as I know, you're not seeing anything on this whiteboard, and I understand that. We're going to change that right now. Basically, we're going to look at basically a typical AM radio station. Now, what it started out as, let me get me a marker here. Basically, your building here, that's the station, and WKOP, whatever. And that's our station we start out with, and like I said, there's generally a studio where the music is made. You got the turntable here, the guy, disc jockey, he's standing here. I'm not a very good drawer. Turning records and things like that, and he's got various machines for his, well, you can see I'm not a very good drawer. But anyway, he's got various machines for his commercials, things like that. And okay, so here's our studio here, but how does the signal from this, the audio, and that's what this is audio, And how does that get to the over here? We're going to draw us a nice little tower with a thing there. How does that get to there, and what makes it happen? Well, okay, from the studio we go to a transmitter, and that's our AM transmitter, and of course it's got some dials and stuff like that on it. But there's a line runs over to that, and then there's a line that runs out to the antenna. Now, basically, like I said, this is a reverse of what happens in your radio receiver. The audio here is mixed with the transmitter or carrier signal here, and then they are both fed out to the antenna. And from the antenna, they go out to the airwaves. And in the airwaves, that's where everybody talks about the radio receiver picking it up. That's basically how it works. Obviously, that's a very simplified diagram. This is just something I'm trying out, and I wanted to see how well it would turn out. Obviously, I'm not very good at drawing, but I just kind of wanted to go over a few of the things. You had some of the things you have inside this radio station is a machine like this. It's got a slot here, and it takes carts. You guys remember the 8-tracks, some of you older guys will. And basically that's what these carts look like, is 8-track carts. And you would shove it in there, it would play the commercial or jingle or whatever you wanted to play, and that would be fed out as well. Now this was happened during the golden age, and this was a time when the radio was king, and as far as the music's concerned and stuff like that. But I was looking at that. That's pretty crummy. Anyway, let me get my. I thought I had better. What do you call it here? But I don't. Let me get this out of here. Alright, well that's how it was working back in the golden age. And that golden age carried on through the 50s and 60s as far as the music was concerned. And like I said, it came out, I don't know, when, I won't say late 60s, early, maybe mid 60s, FM radio began to get popular and music moved over to FM radio. From there was some music stations on AM, and there still is actually. There's one in Madison, Indiana. I can't remember the call letters, WSCH I think, something like that. But they play music, and that's what I was going to get at, is how is AM radio transformed today. And basically you have a big time radio station here, and it may not even have call letters because it's just what they call a subscription service. You have the DJs coming in here to do their thing, and they do the same music as they did before or whatever, but all this is done, you know, here, and then it's taken outside and goes to a dish. You guys know what a dish is. And it's broadcast up to the satellite, which is up here in the sky, and then the radio station over here, our WKOP, it has a dish, and it receives the signal from the satellite, and that's how those work. And basically, like I said, you have subscription services, which is what this is, and they provide all the same services that the old DJs used to provide, but see, that saves money for WKOP now, and they don't have to pay a disc jockey, the talent, on-air talent as they used to call it, to sit there and spin records and things like that. All of that is done over here at the whatever we call that. I don't even know what they call it. It's a subscription service. We'll call it the SS. But anyway, so like I said, they broadcast 24 hours a day or whatever, And of course the radio station pays for that, and it's just a lot cheaper though than providing, like I said, manpower to maintain. Now they do have people come in and maintain the station. As far as the how far they go, as far as what they do or whatever like that, depends on how much automation they have. Now automation is the addition of computers, and that's what that is computer. But a lot of stuff now is done by computers. Even get your weather forecast, your time, your temperatures, things like that, can all be done from the computer without anybody sitting there doing that. And there's a lot of stations that do that now, and they just have a computer sitting there, and it takes the input from the subscription service, and will add its own station ID now and then. So that's needs to be done for the FCC, and but that's basically how it works now. It's just there's no people there anymore, other than somebody that maintains the equipment and maybe come in. You know, a lot of these stations, the small stations especially, they do remotes and stuff like that. Now, when they do remotes, I think most of your smaller stations still use your phone lines, the old Mall Bell phone lines, twisted pairs, and like they go out here to the basketball game or whatever, and they broadcast that back to the station, and that, I don't know how many of you guys noticed, but the quality of the broadcasts that they do from like basketball games, football games, things like that, is really low in your audio quality as far as the bandwidth and that, because it comes over the phone lines, and that's really the main reason. There's just not a lot of bandwidth on those phone lines. It's just it's more for voice, and you know, music doesn't work very well over it, stuff like that. But it works for, like I said, that's the gymnasium there where the basketball's being played. But anyway, it works good for stuff like that, because you mainly want to hear the voice is all you're wanting to really hear, and so that's how they do that. They do a lot of remotes. Now some of your bigger stations will use a satellite dish and broadcast via satellite, and you know, do remotes that way. But that's your bigger stations. These small town little stations like that use the phone lines and stuff like that to do their remotes. But that's really the only time they have to have somebody there to do something. And like I said, they usually have somebody to work on the equipment, maybe to come in and do some fresh station IDs, you know, air checks, whatever you want to call them, stuff like that. And that's basically all that works. Now, this WKOP here does the same thing. All that stuff hasn't changed, other than maybe the equipment. You still got a tower, and it's still broadcasting out to everybody, and it still runs through a transmitter here. And like I said, that part hasn't really changed that much. Like I said, this transmitter probably is all solid state now instead of tube. But like I said, other than that, that's still the same way. It works the same way. Now, there are some stations that have the transmitter built in at the studio, and you really get, because you really get a better quality audio that way, because they'll use the phone lines generally to run from the studio to the transmitter, but they generally, I don't think, use the phone lines themselves, other than a dedicated twisted pair, and you know, that way the phone signal is not on there, and they just use that. They lease the line from the phone company to do that. And of course, this would be a hard line over to the antenna from the transmitter. So, but like I said, that's basically how that works. And but I just thought it was kind of interesting to think about it. You know, everybody talks about, oh yeah, we're going to do this with our signal, we're going to do that with our signal. Where's that signal come from? So that was just my thoughts on it. Like I said, my drawing leaves something to be desired. You got to remember, I'm reaching out here, and I'm not doing this up close, and so I apologize for the poor artwork, but it gets the point across, I think. I doubt if you could, come in from not hearing what I just said and say, what is that? And you wouldn't know. You got the SS over here. It's just, all right, I don't know. Like I said, it was just an idea I had about, where this signal comes from, and, is it magic? Does it come out of the sky? What does it do? So that's just I'll look at that real quick, and I may not even post this. You never can tell. I may run this by Bob and see what he thinks about it before I post it, because this is pretty silly. I did want to do some whiteboard stuff though, and I think I need a better system of doing this. This was just my first idea of doing it, or how to do it, and I think maybe I need to get the camera set up so I can get a little closer to it and do a little bit better drawing on it, and so. But like I say, that's going to do me for today. Just a quick look at where the broadcast AM signal comes from. So, you guys have a great day. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see ya.